Less than a week after the Boeing Starliner landed successfully, proving its ability after years of delay, NASA has now awarded all the final flights needed to keep the space station fully occupied right through the year 2030 for SpaceX's Dragon. Recall NASA's verdict on Starliner, a great vehicle for crew transportation. So why did NASA make this suddenly important decision? NASA finally gave up on Boeing Starliner? Well, let's expose it all in today's episode of SpaceX Fans. NASA recently announced it plans to purchase 5 additional Crew Dragon missions from SpaceX to carry astronauts to the International Space Station. The notice added that the additional missions will ensure redundant and backup capability through 2030 for the ISS. Although the space agency's news release does not specifically say so, these may be the final flights NASA needs to keep the space station fully occupied into the year 2030. As of now, there's no signed international agreement to keep the station flying until then, but this new procurement sends a strong signal that the space agency expects the orbital outpost to keep flying that long. The announcement also suggests that SpaceX will fly more than twice as many crews to the space station than the other partner in NASA's Commercial Crew Program, Boeing. Under the new agreement, SpaceX would fly 14 crewed missions on the Crew Dragon, and Boeing would fly 6 during the lifetime of the station. Let's run down the math on that. SpaceX has already launched 4 operational crew missions to the station, dating back to the November 15, 2020, the launch of Crew 1 mission. SpaceX has 2 more flights under its original crew contract with NASA, and in February 2022, NASA awarded fixed-price contracts for the Crew 7, Crew 8, and Crew 9 missions to SpaceX. The latest announcement would bring the total number of Crew Dragon missions to 14. NASA anticipates a potential need to use any SpaceX flights as early as 2026 to ensure dissimilar redundancy, maintain safe space station operations, and allow each company to work through any unforeseen issues that could arise as private industry builds operational excellence with these new systems. SpaceX is currently NASA's only certified commercial crew transportation provider. The company will fly its 6th rotational mission for NASA in the spring of 2023. Besides, NASA is even still pushing for a Russian cosmonaut to fly on the next SpaceX mission. Joe Montalbano, the Houston-based programmer of the ISS, said he's eager to see the seat swap happen because it should help solidify the partnership that's been shaken by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. "I'm pushing," he said. "I think it's the right thing to do just because it's happened with similar vehicles, but we'll have to see." Well, SpaceX's Dragon has really made a big contribution here. What about Boeing Starliner? It's yet to fly an operational mission to the station. The company recently completed a largely successful uncrewed test flight in May. Looking ahead, Boeing will probably complete a crewed flight test of Starliner late this year or maybe early in 2023, and then fly its first operational mission sometime in 2023, or possibly later if issues are discovered on the crewed test flight. Boeing's Orbital Flight Test 2 went very well, and we hope to be able to certify the Starliner system in the near future, said Phil McAllister, Director of Commercial Space at NASA. He said that in an agency news release. However, we will need additional missions from SpaceX to implement our strategy of having each commercial provider flying alternating missions once per year. NASA has yet to announce the purchase of additional Starliner missions. This seems prudent as Boeing has yet to fully demonstrate Starliner's capabilities with the crew on board. But based on the number of this week's announcement, it now seems probable that there are no additional crewed missions to award to Boeing. Why? Because NASA only plans to fly 2 crewed space station missions a year with 4 astronauts aboard each. SpaceX would be contracted for 10 additional missions, and Boeing has 6 on the books. There are 8 years of lifetime left in the space station if it stops flying in 2030. While additional modifications to these contracts are always possible, NASA appears to have booked all of the rides it needs for the station lifetime into 2030. This doesn't necessarily mean that Starliner will fly just 6 crewed missions. Boeing signaled its intent to also use the vehicle for private astronaut missions, likely to commercial space stations under development. For example, Boeing is a partner on Blue Origin's Orbital Reef space station project. But it is worth noting that Boeing is also having big limitations. At present, Starliner is only capable of flying on the ULA Atlas V rocket, so Boeing has only secured enough launches to complete its original 6 operational Starliner missions for NASA before the Atlas V rocket is retired. NASA's Aerospace Safety Advisory Panel raised concerns about how delays in Starliner's development might affect the availability of the Atlas V at its May 12 meeting. Any further delays with Starliner launches would exacerbate this concern, says David West, a member of the panel, especially adding that certifying Vulcan for crewed launches could take years. At a May 17th pre-launch briefing, NASA and ULA officials said that all the remaining Starliner missions under contract, including CFT and the 6 post-certification missions, would remain on Atlas V, regardless of schedule. From a resource perspective, we have measures in place to protect the talent and to ensure we retain the critical skills to be able to fly an Atlas as late as we need to, said Gary Wentz, Vice President of Government and Commercial Programs at ULA. We're in conversations with Boeing and other customers for that capability. Even at a pace of 1 mission per year, though, and with no other customers for Starliner, the supply of Atlas vehicles would be exhausted before the projected retirement of the ISS in 2030. We would look toward the end of the decade to award other flights or have other flights potentially for Boeing, said Steve Stitch, NASA Commercial Crew Program Manager. We would look for a new system. He said NASA would support human rating a new system when Boeing and ULA are ready. ULA has not announced plans to human rate Vulcan. However, Wentz said that over 90% of Vulcan Centaur hardware is already flying on Atlas V, simplifying any human rating process. One key change, he said, would be transferring the emergency detection system currently on Atlas, which alerts the spacecraft of any problems with the rocket to trigger its abort system, to Vulcan. The other major change, he said, would be human rating the BE-4 engines used on Vulcan's first stage. Boeing may not be the only customer or even the first to seek the human rating of Vulcan. Sierra Space is planning a crewed version of its Dream Chaser cargo spacecraft. The cargo version would launch on Vulcan rockets starting in 2023, and a crewed version could be ready as soon as 2026. That's just theory. The reality is definitely much further away. And that just about wraps it up for today's episode. Don't forget to share your ideas in the comments section. Everyone's support will be motivation for us to create more quality content. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.